whenever it comes to the biking scenario in India, it always reminds me of Bajaj. Yes, day and night, Bajaj Pulsars have always been the epitome of biking success in India. Trust me, whenever it comes to the sport bike scenario, the Pulsars were the ones who were deemed as India's #1 sports bike. When KTM came to India, it created a huge stir. I guess if you have seen my previous video, the Adventure 390, or if you haven't already, links are in the description below. The fun part about the Bajaj Pulsar was that it was very fun to ride. At the same time, when the KTM came to the market, it came in with a storm and it created a huge havoc in the entire industry. Bajaj had to do something that time, and at the same time they even tied up with KTM. The fun part about this is, KTMs are a hoot to ride. They're more like a hooliganistic feeling. But then the market needed something more tame, something that can be toured with, something which had a little more character, a little more fun, a dash of taste, and a lot of elegance. When KTM brought the Duke 390 to India, the sales of every single bike went drastically down, but not Bajaj. They had an ace up their sleeve, and that was the bike called as the Dominar. In 2016, just 2 years after the release of the first KTM Duke 390, they incorporated most of the technology. What the 390 had, a 373cc single-cylinder DOHC mill. While the thirst for power was quenched by most modern bikes with the lunacy and aggression, and the power being delivered in such a frantic way, we needed something more tame and something deliverable in a much more linear fashion for mainly the touring-focused crowd. A sporty tourer that won't make you feel underpowered. Here's the Dominar 400.
Bold and brash, the Bajaj Dominar 400 is the brutish naked motorcycle from Bajaj which spearheads their portfolio. Based on the CS400 concept, Bajaj bought the Dominar in December 2016. Its aggressive performance to price ratio is surely something that has drawn crowds to the showroom. The moment you see the Dominar 400, its proportions capture your senses. The brawny front end, the beefy and sculpted tank cover, the substantial mid-frame. The Dominar has been designed for dominating road presence, and that was very evident while we were here on a ride. There was not a single soul on the road who could escape the glance of the motorcycle. And that was because of one thing. If only the beast could have wanted more. The brand new and revised Dominar 400.
The Dominar was a fun bike to begin with, rivaling the KTM in every aspect. In fact, being a bit better tourer than the KTM as well. 2017 and the new KTM Duke 390 was released, and it had a tough competition as well. Well, it's time for a refreshment, and of course, we had the 2018 Dominar. It was a much better bike in every aspect, and it sure is fun to ride, has a better handling suspension, has DOHC cams thankfully, and has much more usable power.
Making the good a better machine or a simple facelift? Let's find out. The Bajaj Dominar 400 had massive potential, but it never quite sold the numbers it should have. Bajaj then gave the bike an update to fix its issues, and as our review revealed, this was done to a large extent. The days when a motorcycle received just a few cosmetic changes and even fewer mechanical ones in the name of a midlife update are clearly behind us, and the all-new Bajaj Dominar 400 bears testimony to that. When we rode the 2016 model, we came back with the feeling that while the Dominar 400 does look and feel good on paper, it could have been more wholesome as a package. Bajaj Auto claims to have done exactly that with the updated version. The gold color wheels from the previous gen model have also been done away with, and Bajaj has gone back to black with the polished outer edges. The keen-eyed ones among you will also notice the slightly different layout of the blacked out bits on the tank, belly pan and the front mud guard. Of course, there are other visual distinctions like the fat upside down forks and twin exit muffler. Note that the front brake is on the left side instead of right. The rear view mirrors have been redesigned and frankly it looks a lot sportier and more premium than the older ones with the addition of high quality glass aluminum mirrors. The older version was good for 35 PS of power, criticized by many as the Bajaj's inability to use the complete output from the 373cc single-cylinder engine. The new update receives an improved power figure of 40 horsepower at 8,650 RPM while the torque remains similar at 35 Nm but is now achieved at 7,000 RPM. This improvement in performance has been made possible by moving to a DOHC setup as opposed to the SOHC setup on the earlier version along with a few other changes. The exhaust note has changed to a throatier and more distinctive note thanks to the new dual barrel end cam, which also looks larger and wears a matte black finish. The new motor also results in a more energetic surge in acceleration, which combined with the bassier note from the revised exhaust gives the Dominar some character that was missing earlier. It builds speed harder but isn't alarmingly quick like the Duke 390. So in that sense, it feels more like a powerful train than a speedy plane. The good news though is that the power delivery is still very linear, despite the motor offering more thrust in each gear, which means the Dominar 400 will continue to offer a friendly feel even to novice riders. However, it is also worth noting that the improved acceleration will result in a minor yet noticeable drop in fuel efficiency. As usual, the Dominar 400 continues to use a split instrument cluster, but the main pod shows a lot more information than the earlier bike. It displays remaining range, instantaneous and average fuel consumption, average speed, and also lets you know when the kill switch is on or when the side stand is down. Earlier, only the telltale lights were housed in the tank cluster. However, for the new model, even the tank mounted unit is fully digital and it shows the gear position, time and odometer readings.
One of the few things that I absolutely loved about the new Dominar 400 over the old one is the practicality that it offers. It's just amazing and it feels so much more planted and well executed. Honestly, this should have been the way the Dominars have come at first place.
Unfortunately, the 13-litre fuel tank has remained unchanged. One of the biggest drawbacks of the older Dominar was this uncomfortable ride quality. But Bajaj for the most part has fixed that. The conventional fork has been replaced by an endurance upside down unit that looks identical to the one on the 390 but has been heavily retuned here. In inverted forks, the weight is concentrated at the top rather than at the bottom, as is the case in conventional one. This helps in quicker steering movement as there is less mass near the wheel. The front feels quite plush and handles pothole-ridden tarmac a lot better by soaking up most of the undulations. The rear meanwhile still has a sense of firmness but no longer punishingly so. A softer ride often means a loss in corner caving capabilities, and the Dominar is no exception to this. While it doesn't feel as dynamic as the older bike in corners, it can still carry high speeds while leaned over, and this works because the Dominar was never about going around corners fast. However, there's no shaking the feeling that this is still a heavy motorcycle, especially within city limits, and its 184 kg curb weight is still one of the few gripes we have. Yes, it's not to the point where the bike feels cumbersome, but we do wish it was a bit lighter. Like before, the Dominar 400 is shod with MRF REVV tyres at both ends, which offer good grip and aid rider confidence even when leaning to corners. To match the extra power, Bajaj has chucked the bibrake-axially mounted front caliper and has replaced it with a radial unit from the same brand. This helps in maintaining a more even contact patch compared to the axial unit, as the latter is held at only one point near the fork arm. What's not changed is the disc and the rear single piston caliper. There's a few other changes as well, like the revised internals for the headlamp and tail lamp units, which make them better looking, though the basic designs are the same. And to add to the biker's touring credentials, it now comes with factory-fitted nylon loops under the pillion seat to make strapping your luggage into it easier. Although you can always go for aftermarket upgrades like the one done on the older gen Dominar 400 on the other bike that we are riding. And you sit upright while the foot pegs are. It's not as easy to view the secondary display on the fuel tank on the go though, as it is out of the rider's line of vision, and taking your eyes off the road to look at the gear position or trip meter is a big no-no. Bajaj has really outdone itself with the pricing of the Dominar. With all the new updates coming in at a hike of just Rs 11,000, the motorcycle costs Rs 1.8 lakhs now. And this is where the things get interesting. At this price, it undercuts similarly powered rivals and spec motorcycles by a huge margin. But it's not just the price. Thanks to the updated motor and suspension, the Dominar is now a more competent motorcycle. So much so that we would say it's the best highway machine under Rs 2 lakh. But needless to say, considering the older gen Dominar with a perfect touring mode as our buddy here has, would also make it for a perfect all-in-one experience on a budget.
I would really recommend this to everyone looking for a bike in the sub 400 segment range, who wants to explore the wide open stretches of land and who'd like to go out in the open, travel a lot, endure long distance riding with a pillion at their back or a lot of saddlebag and luggage on them. This is perfect for the enthusiasts who are looking for long rides. As they say, Dominar, dominate the world. Get set, anarchy.